What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Skin in the Game. I am your host, Austin Thompson, aka OZ, and we are back with another live episode. Um, it's a tough one today, guys. Again, it's kind of been the recurring theme over the last few weeks for the Chiefs, but this one's probably the worst. And I think the just the events that have occurred over the weekend have kind of shifted a lot of Chiefs fans. I think Kansas City in general has taken kind of a turn, and it's just it's kind of back to feeling like the dark days, before Mahomes, and you really feel like what's going to happen with the Chiefs moving forward. What decisions are they going to make, and how is this team going to turn the next chapter? Um, again, it's a tough show to start. It's tough news to break, tough news to tell about Mahomes tearing his ACL and LCL. Luckily, he had a successful surgery, and so we'll dive into Mahomes' ACL and injury and kind of recap Week 15's loss against the Chargers. We'll also dive into kind of what I think the Chiefs should do the rest of the season, just going forward for the last three games, Week 14 or 15, 16, or 16, 17, 18. Sorry. And then we'll dive also into the 2026 cap space situation. There was an article that I found, and it broke it down really well on basically like where the Chiefs' money's going and kind of how they're going to spend it this offseason and what they have to kind of do to create money. And so I thought it'd be a nice article to share with you guys. And then we'll wrap up with my top 5 wish list for the Chiefs going forward into the offseason. But if you guys want to join in, want to comment down, and this is a live show, so I'd really appreciate it if we had some interaction and just I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear, and if you guys got questions or you want a topic that we want to talk about, I want to make this an interactive show. So let's dive in to the biggest news over the weekend is Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL on what would be the final drive, basically, of his season, where the Chiefs are trying to make a comeback. They're kind of marching downfield. Him and Travis Kelce are getting hot in this last drive that he participated in. They're kind of clicking, and you're thinking, oh, we're going to maybe get a vintage performance from Mahomes where we are within a one-score game, and the Chiefs come back and win. And it was a game, of course, the Chiefs needed, and ultimately they lose and end up being eliminated from the playoffs. And so that was something that hasn't happened since Andy Reid basically became the Chiefs head coach. I think his first year he missed the playoffs, and after that, so it's been a long time since the Chiefs have not been playing in January and February, especially into February with all the Super Bowls they've participated in, 5 out of the last 7. So that's tough for Chiefs fans, is that we haven't had a season where the games don't really matter going forward. The rest of the season doesn't matter. All that matters is our draft position, essentially, and maybe getting some playing time for some younger guys and getting experience. So it's a weird situation. It's a weird place to talk to as somebody that's a fan. It's a weird place to talk to somebody that's trying to portray some light on the Chiefs and talk about their season in general. And it's like, well, what is there to talk about when it comes to the rest of the season not mattering? And so there is still a lot to talk about. There still is things to look forward to. I think the Chiefs have a good chance to really take a moment to really think about what happened this season, how much they were relying on Patrick Mahomes. I think that took a big part in why he did get injured. I think they relied on him a lot, and he spent a lot of time scrambling before, usually in the playoffs, that's kind of when he turns into his scrambling style, where the game's on the line and all that matters is we got to get a win. And he usually turns that up in the playoffs. But you saw that from kind of week 1, week 2. I mean, Mahomes was the leading rusher in like 5 games this season. And so I think that had something to do with it a little bit. I think another thing, it's just kind of one of those freak injuries. It's one of those things that just happens, and it's football. And so you live on with it, but what it feels like, and let me know if I'm wrong, but to me, it feels like it's an end of a chapter, and we're turning the next page to the second phase of this iteration of the Chiefs. And what that is, I don't know. That could be post Travis Kelce. That is a reinvented Patrick Mahomes with, a new knee, and maybe not as mobile, maybe not as creative, but more pocket passer-ish. That might be post Chris Jones. There's there's a lot of things that can happen this offseason, and the Chiefs have a lot of decisions to make. They have a lot of decisions to make, whether who they're going to retain, who they're going to keep. But Mahomes tearing his ACL is probably like it's if there was a nightmare, it's the worst nightmare you can have as far as a football organization, as a winning culture, as a team that is trying to have success year in and year out. Your number one player, your number one quarterback, your team essentially has injured themselves for the next 9 to 12 months, where Mahomes is going to hit rehab really hard. He's had surgery, which was way quicker than a lot of people kind of predicted. They thought maybe he would have had it after the first of the year just to get the swelling down. But in reality, he was had surgery within 2 days. I mean, he's already had surgery. So that's a good sign. And what that means is that he can start rehab sooner. So you might have gained 2 to 4 weeks on this 9-month timeline. And so currently the timeline gets you to about week 1 of the season of 2026. And so do I think Mahomes is going to start week 1? I would be shocked, just because I don't think it's something you rush back. I've seen multiple examples where guys have torn their ACL and the timeline they've come back. For instance, Kyler Murray, when he tore his ACL, he tore it early January. And by the time he came back, it was November. So we're talking 11 months. Tanner says, they said it was a bad sign he had surgery so soon. They did it so soon because he tore his LCL too. Yeah. So see, we're hoping for the best, but really, guys, I wouldn't expect Mahomes for the first 5 games. I wouldn't expect him to be, at least for the first month. And something you got to think about, guys, is when he's going to have this whole offseason to recover. He's going to train. He's got a great trainer, Bobby Stoop. They're going to hit it hard. Mahomes is, as much as he's banged up, he's been injured. We've seen him come back 2 games after dislocating a knee, where his kneecap is literally in the side of his leg. So there is a real chance that he can make a early comeback in 2026. But to me, it's almost as if you don't want to rush it, because 1, he's your franchise quarterback. You don't want to rush him back. But 2, it depends on the moves the Chiefs make this offseason. And what I mean by that is, let's say it's week 1 and they haven't brought in like anybody big. They didn't make any splashes this offseason. They're just like, you know what, we're going to just bring in guys to fill in holes. We're going to go through the draft, and we're going to use this year as a retool. Well, then there's no reason to really bring Mahomes back so soon. There's no reason to bring him back for the first month. He can sit out week 1 through 4 and then give him some time to ramp up, because he's not going to have training camp. He's not going to have preseason. He needs time to kind of integrate back. And you're not sure, a guy coming off an ACL, you're just not sure. Now, granted, there are great examples of guys who have came off ACL tears and all these different leg injuries and been great. Adrian Peterson, he's kind of like the prime example, a guy that came back and had one of the craziest scenes of his career. So I'm not saying Mahomes can't be that, but to have your expectations to think that he's going to be week 1 starter of 2026, I wouldn't put my hopes in that. My hope is that he has a good recovery and we get him maybe in late October, early November, and maybe the Chiefs are 500 at that point and they can make a push for the playoffs when he comes back. That's what you're really hoping for, is you're hoping for an opportunity to make the playoffs, but you don't want to rush him back. Again, and Mahomes is the guy, you guys know Mahomes is a guy where he would come back to next week if he could. We know that's the type of guy he is. He doesn't want to miss a game. He doesn't want to be out. But obviously the situation is different, but he's going to do everything he can to be back week 1. He might be doing everything back to be for preseason so he can get some reps. That's how much I think he's going to train this offseason. He's going to be dedicated. And so Mahomes tearing the ACL is kind of, I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise, because, injuries suck and that changes like the trajectory of the Chiefs, for the next 10 years. We're talking dealing with a major injury, but also Mahomes is going to have to reinvent himself in ways. You can't expect him to be the super Patrick Mahomes that run around for 20 seconds behind the line of scrimmage, 360 spin, and make a crazy throw. Those days of Patrick Mahomes might be gone. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but realistically, what quarterback is going to come back and be able to do that off an ACL tear? Now, it was different for Tom Brady. Tom Brady gets his knee blown out week 1, Bernard Pollard, and he gets the whole season to rest, and he comes back the following season. And he didn't have a great season coming off that knee injury. But the difference between him is the play styles. If it's your left knee, that's not your plant leg. That is nothing to do with the way you're going to throw the ball. Essentially, you're going to push off your back right leg as a right-handed quarterback. So, and Tom Brady is a statue. He wasn't running around in the pocket and needed to be able to maneuver. So you're going to maybe see a different play style from Mahomes, but the reason why it's a blessing in disguise is because I believe that is Mahomes' next step in his evolution to be becoming better than he is now. Because the league has figured out this backyard, quick slants, screens, bubble screen offense and style that Mahomes has played. And we haven't really seen a 3-step drop. Mahomes hits a slant, or a 3-step drop over the middle, or, like more of like that. I don't want to call it normal, but like traditional football style. And I think that's going to be Mahomes' next evolution. I think if Mahomes wants to continue to climb the ranks, to continue to win, he's going to need help from his team. But I think him in general is going to have to reinvent his whole game. I don't see a scenario where Mahomes, unless he's just this super freak athlete, and as much as, again, his heart shows super freak athlete, but I can't say that he's just this super freak athlete because of his athleticism or his ability. It's just he's tough. So you may see a new side of Mahomes coming back in 2026. And again, my expectation is I give him at least 4 weeks. I see him in week 5 and we kind of reevaluate. But again, don't be surprised if Mahomes continues to train this offseason, continues to do his best to get back, and he's not starting. And don't be surprised if he's starting week 1. So, all right, so let's move on to what I kind of hope the Chiefs do the rest of the season. And I'm sure a lot of fans are feeling the same way. My desire for the Chiefs is basically I want them to lose out. I want them to tank. Because if you look at the last 7 or 8 years, the Chiefs have not drafted basically above like 28 or something. Or excuse me, sorry. When they traded for Trent McDuffie, they did draft at 21. But their normal draft position, they basically drafted high 20s to 30s. So this is a real opportunity where you could fall to 12 or 11, somewhere in that area, and getting a top 12 player. I mean, and adding to a team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And yes, had a bad season, but a few plays here or there, we're not having the same conversation about this Chiefs team. So you're adding a top 10, top 12 player from the draft to this offense or to this defense, whichever side. I know a lot of people want Jeremiah Love. They want him to upgrade at running back. I don't see the Chiefs taking a first-round swing on a running back. But either way, you're going to get a top-tier talent. And then the other side of it is you're going to get your picks move up. So if you get pick 12, you're going to have pick 42 instead of having pick 30 and then pick 60. So it doesn't just help you in the first round. You're going from a top 30 to a top 60 player. You're going to a top 12 to a top 42 player. And so, yes, it's a bummer that the Chiefs have missed a playoff, but this is a real opportunity for the Chiefs to retool, to rebuild, to bring in young guys, to bring in good talent, which they've had to take some swings. And Brett Beach gets a lot of love for his 2022 draft and some of these guys that he's found in late rounds. But if you look at the last few drafts, 25, 24, 25 we're still waiting on, but 24, 23, there's not a lot of great picks that have really came out of the Chiefs drafts. Beach has not been the mystique behind the draft like he was in 22, where 22 was maybe one of the greatest, GM performances you'll see in a draft that you can ask for. You get Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, and he gets a bunch of DBs in the later rounds that become starters. I mean, you got a crazy talent in 2022, but the fall off from 23, 24, and possibly 25 it's something to watch, because this is the real opportunity where Brett Beach could make a huge splash. And if he can use his talent, that's prospecting, analyzing players, knowing what kind of area guys are going to get drafted in, range from 10 to 15, or and also being aggressive. That's something that I think Beach needs to be in this draft, is be aggressive. Which, if you need a package, a first and a third to move up, or some kind of trade to move up a few spots to get the guy that you want, be aggressive. This is the year to be aggressive. It's the year to get top tier talent, because you're not necessarily looking at next year, because you're assuming Mahomes won't be 100% next year. So why not take swings in 26 draft and get the offense ready, get the defense ready, whatever it is, give these rookies a year to develop, and you'll be ready hitting the ground running in 27. So I want the Chiefs to tank because I want them to get the best draft pick. And to be honest, who's to say that they're not going to lose anyway, even if they weren't trying to lose, which I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily going to try to purposely lose. But I do think that with Gardner Minshew playing quarterback, and you're going to probably see a lot of Jalen Royals, you're probably going to see a lot of other rookies, you're going to see Brashard Smith, you're going to see a lot of younger guys playing. It's more than likely that the Chiefs may lose out or go 1-2 and maybe beat the Titans or something, or beat the Raiders. But I want them to lose out on purpose, because I just want them to have a higher draft pick. So that's kind of my first thing that I would want the Chiefs to do this offseason, is really just tank. Second thing I would want them to do, and we've talked about this before, and so let me know, comment down if you agree or what you think that Chiefs should do. Trade Trent McDuffie this offseason. I am not in the business as a team that is retooling, rebuilding, and you're looking for the future, signing a corner who is undersized, and he's a great player, but signing a corner undersized to $30 million a year is not the move. And you can get probably some pretty good assets for him. I think last offseason you could have got a first and a third. I would not be surprised this offseason you can only get a second and a third, or a second and a fourth. But if you can get some more draft capital and save the cap space, which we'll get into cap space situations in a little bit, but save the cap space. And again, I understand we don't have necessarily top tier corners, but you can delay your roster building a year essentially because of Mahomes' recovery. You don't have to have the greatest DBs, or if you make a big splash at D end and pass rusher. Again, we talked about before that I choose pass rushers over DBs, because if you can get to the quarterback, your cornerbacks don't have to be as good. So I'm not in the business of paying a short corner $30 million a year. I just think it's silly that you would pay Trent McDuffie, and I think you can get good assets for him, trade him in advance. You should have traded him last offseason, to be honest. Back if you could go 2020, go back in time to last offseason, the Chiefs would have traded him 100%. And don't be surprised if they trade him this offseason. Don't be surprised if you see a lot of guys gone. They're going to flip this roster. They're going to get their salary cap situation in control. But my second thing is I really want them to trade Trent McDuffie. It's similar to the Snead situation. They had to choose between Chris Jones and trading Snead. They ended up trading Snead, and it worked. It panned out. Now, Chris Jones you're seeing the after effects of Chris Jones' contract, and he's not playing very well. But it worked for the Snead side of things, where you got good draft capital back, and Snead has been injury prone and hasn't played very much for the Titans. So that's one of the things that I want to do this offseason. I want the Chiefs to do. Number 3, fire Matt Nagy. The dude has to go. And here's why. I don't necessarily blame all of Matt Nagy. I think Nagy has become simplistic, and some of it is Andy Reid. And so that's why I'm not saying I'm blaming all of Matt Nagy. Andy Reid deserves blame, but somebody has to be the scapegoat. Spags is not getting fired. Andy Reid's not getting fired unless he retires. He's not leaving for at least a couple years. Same with Spags. So the only option is really to get rid of Matt Nagy, so you can get kind of a revitalized face in the locker room, and also to kind of bring new schemes, bring new ideas to Andy Reid, because we know that the Chiefs, and we know Andy Reid calls the plays, but who knows about if we get a new face in there. Let's say Eric Bieniemy comes back, or my pick is Doug Peterson. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people, Mike McDaniel with his crazy play designs from Miami, and they think, oh, we'll get Mike McDaniel to come be the offensive coordinator. I don't necessarily like that that marriage there. I don't think that's a good pick. I think Doug Peterson actually probably fits the mold a little bit more. He comes from the Andy Reid tree as far as coaching, and I just think he's a better fit than Mike McDaniel. My father-in-law, shout out to my father-in-law, Manuel. He says, are we going to see Kelsey step up next season? I don't know if we're going to see Kelsey next season at all, because you might have seen the last throwing catch from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelsey last game. Kelsey might be done, and this might be his last season, and you might see kind of a mini farewell tour from Kelsey these last 3 games. I think you might see a mini farewell tour from Travis Kelsey, and I think his brother, Jason, who kind of did something similar. They went to the Super Bowl, they lost, and he was contemplating retiring, and he didn't. And then he made one final run, and then they ended up having a bad season. I think they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and then he retired. I think Travis Kelsey is going to learn from his brother's, I'm going to call it a mistake, but his brother's path. I don't think you'll see him come back and try to do one more season and say, oh, we can make a run. I think that was this season. I think Travis Kelsey will be done. And if he does come back, love Trav. I think he's been maybe one of the greatest Chiefs ever, the greatest Chiefs tight end, period. But he's going to have to come back for a very friendly deal, or the Chiefs got to move on, especially now that Patrick Mahomes is hurt and the future of the Chiefs is just kind of in question. I think we've seen the last of Travis Kelsey. So, but back to number 3, I want Doug Peterson to become the offensive coordinator. So number 4, the Chiefs need to go in free agency and find a man coverage beating wide receiver. And I think it needs to be a veteran. I've seen a lot of people saying that they need to go get a new number 1. They need to go get some high leverage guy. I think Rashee Rice is a solid lower end number 1, high end number 2 wide receiver. I think you can go find a veteran, and I say veteran, 4 or 5 years in the league. I'm not talking about DeAndre Hopkins. That's 10 plus years in the league. That's not what I'm saying. Go get a guy that can beat man coverage. It doesn't have to be the best free agent on the market, George Pickens. You can't afford him. It doesn't have to be that. But what you can go find is a guy that's on third down, and you need someone to get open, and he can get open on third down because they're running man and covering the sticks. That's what you need to go find. You need to go find a man-beating coverage wide receiver. That could be your 1A, 1B with Rashee Rice, or it could be your solid number 2, and Xavier Worthy can move to a 3. Because I think Rashee Rice has the potential to be a 1, but I don't think he's there. And so if you can get a 1A, 1B, I think they can complement each other. And I think Xavier Worthy is a very good 3 or a very decent lower 2 wide receiver. But I really think he's a number 3. I think he has the ability to beat man coverage, and he can be used in different ways, especially if the Chiefs kind of change their entire scheme and you see more, instead of crossers and these long routes where guys got to get open and it takes a lot of time versus you see guys get open with quick routes. We've seen Xavier Worthy on whip routes and out routes. The guy can get open. So I think he could be a solid 2 or 3. I just don't think Xavier Worthy's not a number 1. Xavier Worthy is definitely a guy that you want on your team for the speed. You want on your team for kind of that threat of that home run ball. But you need to go get a veteran wide receiver that can beat man coverage. And then 5, you need to go sign an elite edge rusher, or at least in the draft, make a big swing on one of the elite edge rushers and trade up. You have to get pass rush in, this 2025 going into 2026 NFL. I value pass rush over any player on the defensive line, whether it's D tackle or DN, whatever area you can get pressure. Any of the trenches up front are more valuable then then like Trent McDuffie on the side. So if that's trading Trent McDuffie to get an extra first round pick, and then you package the 2 first round picks to move up to pick 7 or 5, and you can pick one of the top edge rushers, I think you should do it. Take the swing and do it. Or if you can swap Chris Jones, trade Chris Jones, and go get a 4th round pick and a younger edge rusher, and swap with another team, something of that nature. But the Chiefs have to upgrade at the pass rush position. They have to upgrade, because if you can't get to the quarterback, you're going to see a ton of what the Chiefs did this year, which was 3rd and long, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 15, and they give up first downs. So they can't get off the field. You can't blame your DBs on a 3rd and 15. You just can't. That you gave too much time to the quarterback to even allow a throw on 3rd and 15 or a 3rd and 9. So the focus, again, people think that, we need to bring back McDuffie. We need to sign Jalen Watson. I agree we should bring back Jalen Watson because I think you can get him for a good deal. But I think McDuffie is the valued asset, and I think you could turn it into some pass rushers. I think you could turn it into different pieces that are more valuable than corner. And Veach, as much as we are putting a lot of pressure on him this season to draft and to get guys in the door and free agency, make trades, all of that, he hits very well on DBs in later rounds. We've seen Joshua Williams. We've seen Jalen Watson. We've seen Chamari Connor, who didn't have a great season this season, but has been a solid role player starter. We see Noah Williams, who we think might be L'Jarius Sneed 2.0. So he's shown a track record that he can go get a guy in the later round of the draft. He can go get a DB in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. What we haven't seen is his ability to pick a solid pass rusher and help this D-line. His drafting at pass rush has been horrible. So I think if you can package Chris Jones even to help you move up, or moving McDuffie to help you move up to get an elite pass rusher in the 1st round, I think you absolutely do it. I think you replenish that D-line again. You get an edge, maybe in a later 3rd round or 4th round, you get a D-line, a D tackle. I think late rounds, you find a corner that you like. I think 2nd or 3rd round, you either go receiver or running back and get a skill position. And then you probably, on one of your later picks, look for a linebacker. But I really like Jeffrey Bossa, and we know Drew Tranquil might not be back. So you may not need linebacker, but either way. And so my honorable mention on my list didn't make my rest of the offseason priorities. Like other people really think that the Chiefs need to go get a running back. The Chiefs, everybody thinks Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. They think the Chiefs should draft him at 12 in the 1st round. And I am not a guy that likes drafting running backs in the 1st round. I think there's a ton of value in the 3rd round, 4th round that you can find. I don't think you should wait till the 7th round, because there's a reason why those guys are on the back end. Unless you just find a gem, which, shout out Isaiah Pacheco. As much as we talk about Isaiah Pacheco not having a great season, for being a 7th round pick, you got good value for him. So if you can find something like that can, but maybe a little sooner, maybe in the 4th round, maybe 3rd round, get a skill position, but you don't take a big swing on I don't think you take a big swing on a running back when there's bigger holes in your team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Especially when you have Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. You don't want to. You can get a running back, like if the Chiefs were able to get Saquon Barkley or something like that. You could get a guy that is an elite running back, but the whole point of having Patrick Mahomes is you want Patrick Mahomes to have the ball in his hand, making throws, making plays. So I don't think, especially with Andy Reid coming back, and as much as Chiefs fans think that this scheme is going to completely flip the script and they're going to bring in all these new OCs, offensive coordinators, and change everything and fire all the coaches, you're going to see a couple changes. You're going to see maybe some decent amount of players kind of flip in and out, but mostly the offense is going to be the same or look similar. You're not going to see a ton of differences. What you want to see is better execution, and that means also being less predictable. But don't expect Andy Reid to come in and just change in the entire offense and look like the Patriots offense or look like the San Francisco 49ers running the West Coast offense. Like, that's not going to happen. Andy Reid has been the same style of coach for the last 20 years. So you're not going to see the offense change that much. So don't expect the Chiefs to take a big swing on a running back. I know everybody loves this Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, and the guy looks great, and he's going to be probably a really good running back in the NFL. But the Chiefs are not going to take a running back in the first round. It's just, you got to take valued positions when you have the opportunity at a high draft pick like that to fill a spot that is more valued than the running back position. Because you can pay, Saquon Barkley makes like $13 million a year, or something like that. Charles Omenihu probably makes $9 million or whatever, something similar, and the guy doesn't do anything. So the values aren't there. So if you can draft an edge rusher early in the first round and you get him on a contract, a rookie deal for 5 years, where you're getting top talent at edge for 5 years and you're paying him rookie money, that is more valuable than taking a running back who may be top tier talent and you get to pay him for 5 years, but then you have to go spend a lot more money on an edge, or you draft an edge who ends up being a great asset for you. You have a rookie deal for 5 years, and then you go find a solid running back who's a third of the price or half of his price. It makes more sense for the Chiefs not to draft a running back in the first round. And I know it's the flashy. I know everybody loves the offense. They want a receiver. They want a running back. This draft should be focused on the trenches. The trenches need to be filled. You need to fill the trenches with your D line. You need to find some backup offensive linemen, whether it's through free agency or later rounds in the draft. For the most part, the offense won't change that much. You're going to find a new running back probably either in free agency or something late, or Brashard Smith's going to get the starting role next year. Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy will be back. Maybe Tyquan Thornton. I'm not sure about Hollywood Brown, but you probably have Tyquan Thornton, and you'll probably bring in some guy through free agency. Juju will be gone. So the offense isn't going to change that much. My belief, or what I think the Chiefs should do, what I think Brett Veach should do, is I think he should really focus on the defense of 2026. I think he should focus on the pass rush. We've seen in the past where the Chiefs have a blatant problem after the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, where Mahomes run around like crazy. That next offseason, they spent all their money on offensive line, and they fixed the problem. Then they had issues on defense. They couldn't stop anybody. They scored a bunch of points, but they couldn't stop anybody. And Veach went and rebuilt the entire defense in the 2022 draft. That is a similar situation, I think, here. And it's not that I don't think the Chiefs' defense isn't good, but when we get to the cap space segment, a lot of the guys that are on defense might not be back, and you might have to let them go for cap space reasons. So you're going to want to fill those spots with younger guys, younger contracts, fresh legs, fresh blood, if you want to call it, new faces. So I think the Chiefs should use their draft capital wisely. Don't draft a running back. Don't, unless it's just if you really think Jeremiah Love is the next, Adrian Peterson or the next Marshall Faulk, if you think he's the next generational talent and he's sitting there just waiting for you, nobody's taking him, and he falls into your lap, then maybe. But I don't believe the Chiefs should swing high on the running back situation. So let's move on to the 2026 cap space kind of dilemma that the Chiefs are in. And there was a really nice article that I found. Shout out to Sport Track. It was some guy put together a financials for the Chiefs going into 2026. So I kind of want to recap the article that was put out. So basically, what the issue is that the Chiefs, before the salary cap has gone up, which if you don't know, every year with TV deals and revenue, the salary cap's going to go up. So the Chiefs, this number that I'm going to tell you is probably closer, maybe a little less than what how far over the Chiefs are salary cap. But this guy reports $31 million over the salary cap. Again, once the new salary cap comes out, it'll probably closer 25 million or so. So the issue is that you are 25 million over the cap, and you haven't signed a draft pick. You haven't signed any free agents. You haven't done anything. You have not made any moves this offseason, and you're $25 million over the cap going into next season. Chris Jones makes $45 million next season. Mahomes' cap hit, which they basically kicked his salary down the road so that they could roster build while he was young, is $78 million. So the first thing that the Chiefs are going to have to do is they're going to have to restructure Mahomes. They're going to have to restructure his contract so that his cap hit comes way down. And then they're going to have to figure out what to do with Chris Jones, whether it's trading him, whether it's figuring out a way to restructure his deal, or you stretch it over a couple years. Maybe you re-sign him, but do it over 3 years, and you kind of maneuver the salary towards the end of that contract, or you give him a big signing bonus to take some of that salary down. Something you have to do there. You're going to cut Jawan Taylor. That's going to save you cap space about $20 million. But there's some other guys that you're going to have to evaluate as far as cutting or keeping or what you want to do. So some of the other issues is Kristen Fulton, who didn't really turn out to be anything. You're probably going to pay him, or you're probably going to cut him just because he didn't do anything for you, and he got a solid deal. So you're probably going to let him go. You're going to have to deal with Drew Tranquill, who the Chiefs love Drew Tranquill. I think he's been a great fit as far as being a backup towards Nick Bolton as that leader on defense when Nick Bolton's been out. I think he's just been a great fit for the Chiefs in general, being that outside linebacker as well. But he makes a lot of money, and you're probably going to have to cut him. You're going to let Marquise Brown walk, so Hollywood's going to be gone. You have to decide what you want to do about Leo Chenal, which I think that you should re-sign him. You have to decide about Travis Kelce, if he comes back or not, and if you want him back, how much you're going to pay him. Jalen Watson, you got to figure out what you're going to do with him. Brian Cook, your starting safety, you got to figure out what you're going to do with him. You have no running back on the roster. You're going to probably let Isaiah Pacheco walk. You might let Kareem Hunt walk, or if he comes back for a deal, you probably let Kareem Hunt come back. And then you got to figure out Trent McDuffie. I mean, there's a ton of guys. You have to figure out what you're going to do with Michael Dana. The guy hasn't contributed to the team all season, and he's making $8 million a year. He's a release candidate. You're probably going to cut him. So all of these guys, I mean, I just named 15 guys. There's only 22 guys that play on the field at a time. I mean, I just named 15 guys that play consistent downs for the Chiefs. And you have to make decisions on all of them. I mean, like I said, you're going to have to restructure Mahomes. You're going to have to figure out what to do with Chris Jones. You're going to have to probably restructure Trey Smith. You're probably going to have to restructure Creed Humphrey. And that's probably just to get you under the salary cap. And that's that's just to get you under. And then you're going to have to start making cuts. So I think we're going to see an entire roster overhaul. Again, let's count them. Let's count this list here. You're going to have to figure out Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, Travis Kelce, Marquise Brown, Leo Chenal, Isaiah Pacheco, Charles Omenihu, Kareem Hunt, Mike Dana, Jawan Taylor. And then you got Christian Fulton. And then you got a couple of lower guys, Felix and Duke Uzama. So there's 12 right there that you got to figure out what you're going to do with the money. And I didn't even mention Trent McDuffie, who a lot of people think he should sign a huge extension, $30 million a year. I mean, there is a ton of issues going into next season. And that's why I don't think Patrick Mahomes should rush back. I don't think Mahomes should rush back to try to get, unless they figure out and Veach does a master class this offseason. Why would I rush back to a team that has no ability to upgrade unless it's through the draft? Again, if Veach has a master class this offseason and makes a ton of moves, why would I rush back? Why would I rush back to a team that there's no growth? There's no growth. So Veach has a very tall task this offseason, guys. And it's not an easy one. It's not an easy one at all. It's not easy because they decided that they wanted to pay players who were contributing to these Super Bowl wins, the Super Bowl appearances. They paid guys that they shouldn't have. Mike Dana is criminally robbing the Chiefs. Christian Fulton, who they thought could come in and be CB3, you would have had Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Christian Fulton, gets hurt, and basically you wasted a bunch of money on him, didn't play. You have Jawan Taylor, who signed basically a 4-year, $80 million deal, and you finally get to the point where you can cut him. But you have Jalen Moore, who may or may not be your starting right tackle now. You had plans to put him at right tackle, and he doesn't look that great, and you're paying him $15 million a year. So there's just a ton of bad deals that were made, and the Chiefs have to learn to walk away from guys, even if they're homegrown, so some of these guys, for example, like Brian Cook. I think Brian Cook has been as average to solid as you can get. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's a great tackler. He gets burnt every once in a while, but that's expected from safeties. You can't. He's not necessarily a ball hawk or anything like that, but he does his job, and he's as good as you're going to find. But the Chiefs have to let him walk. He's going to ask for too much money. You have to let him walk. You have to let Jaden Hicks take that role. You have a younger guy who can come in, take his snaps, and then you can go find maybe somebody in the draft, or maybe find a young guy in free agency, or you find some guy at St. Joe during training camp that steps up and makes the team. I know we have some injuries going in next season, but Wallace, he's a rookie from last year that's played great. And so he may be able to take up that backup safety role, and Jaden Hicks can take the reins as the starting safety. But you can't bring, the Chiefs are going to have to choose these guys that they've drafted. They're going to have to move on from them. You can't bring back Brian Cook. Now, I like Leo Chenal because I think Leo Chenal fills a position that is worth paying. He plays a D-line outside linebacker hybrid freakish athlete that it's hard to find, and you need guys that can do a lot of things like QB spy, rush the quarterback, put him at D tackle and stop the middle. You need guys like that, and that's why I think they should pay Leo Chenal. But there's some of these guys that they've drafted and grown, and you're not gonna be able to pay them. You can't pay everybody. You have to learn to replenish every year. And so looking at Travis Kelce again, if Travis Kelce comes back, you're delaying the growth of guys that you have on the roster. I really want to see more snaps going over the next 3 games from Jared Wiley. I really liked Jared Wiley when he got drafted a few years ago, and I thought, man, he's a big, solid body that could really take over Travis Kelce's position. I thought he would surpass Noah Gray. A lot of people really like Noah Gray and think that he could be the next tight end for the Chiefs. My eyes are on Jared Wiley as far as who has the ability to, and the potential with his size, speed, his blocking ability. We haven't seen much from him because of injury, so he has to be able to stay on the field. But I want to see more snaps from Jared Wiley. And if Travis Kelce comes back, you're delaying growth on some of your positions. Similarly to like linebacker, you have Drew Tranquil, but Jeffrey Bossa sitting on the bench and play special teams, but he's not getting any real reps. And Jeffrey Bossa is a safety linebacker hybrid who you would put out there to guard different routes. But you haven't had the ability to give him snaps because you have Nick Bolton, you have Leo Chenal, you have Drew Tranquil, and some of the younger guys like Ashton Gelati, who's got in, and we've seen him over the last 3 or 4 games starting to get more reps and get comfortable and getting trust from Spags. But it's taken 12 games to get him some reps. That's something I think the Chiefs got to change their minds on, or change gears, is rookies have to play more and give you solid reps. 1, for development, but 2, it's so that you can choose whether you want to pay somebody or not in that same position. So let's say if we were going to play Jeffrey Bossa, the backup linebacker, and we're choosing whether we want to keep Drew Tranquil or play Jeffrey Bossa and let him step into that next role, well, the Chiefs have no idea because they didn't play him all season. They have no data or no information to go off of. What they have is see him on special teams and what they've seen in practice. Now, if you let him play throughout the season this year and get him real game tape, Now you can make a real educated decision. No, we need to bring Drew Tranquil back because Jeffrey Boss is not the guy. Or, well, we've seen really good stuff from him in these situations, and we think that he can take the next step going. Now you're just making you're making the decision blind based on no information. Jaden Hicks, you have good information on that. And that's why my opinion is the Chiefs move on from Brian Cook and you let Jaden Hicks take the starting role because you have good information. He's got to play. It's taken him 2 years, but you have real tape. You've seen highlights. You've seen moments where you know that Jaden Hicks could be a very solid starter or even a star. So the Chiefs have to learn to allow rookies to play more. You have to allow rookies to kind of move into that next, take more playing time, and because it helps you extend your team, your dynasty, if you want to call it. We'll see what Dynasty 2.0 looks like for the Chiefs going forward, but it helps you extend that dynasty when you can continuously bring in rookies, continuously bring in younger guys that develop and continue. It's the Patriot way because the Patriots didn't overpay anybody. The Patriots had a dollar amount set for you, and if you didn't like it, see ya. And that's something that the Chiefs did not do. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing guys like Nick Bolton get huge contracts, and Nick Bolton is a great football player, but he is an overpaid football player. He is not in a prime position in 2025. If this was the year 2000 with Ray Lewis, 100%. But this is 2025 where your linebacker has to be able to not only make tackles, but has to guard freakish athletic tight ends or big body receivers coming across the middle of the field. So the choice to pay some of these guys is just like Mike Dana, who has given you nothing other than a guy that you could throw in to give Chris Jones a breather. He has shown nothing, no ability. I don't even know what the word I'm thinking of is. That's how bad he is. I can't even put words to it. It was a horrible decision to re-sign him for 3 years, $24 million. That is crazy. That is a horrible decision to re-sign him. So the Chiefs just have to change their mind. And you really hope that you see it this offseason. And if you see the Chiefs starting to cut a bunch of these guys, especially if they're hometown guys, like I posted a video over the weekend about Isaiah Pacheco and how I don't think Pacheco's coming back. I just don't think that he's going to I just don't think that the Chiefs are going to re-sign him. I just think it'd be, unless he came back for like a veteran minimum as a backup running back, I don't see the Chiefs bringing him back. And Chiefs fans always attach their hearts to certain players, especially what they do for the community. And there's no hate on that. It's not a personal thing. We're just talking strictly roster construction. But fans attach themselves to their favorite players and they don't want them ever to leave. I got so many hate comments about that. Why would we want him to go and how good he is? No, he is not a good running back. And I'm sorry, but Isaiah Pacheco is not a good running back. You can do a lot better somewhere else. And he may go off and find and get a deal. He may go off in free agency and somebody take a chance on him. He's shown potential, but he's blind when it comes to running to the open spot, running to the hole. You've only seen one explosion play from Isaiah Pacheco in his entire career, and it was against the New York Jets, primetime. I believe it was Sunday Night Football. Other than that, it's 3-4 yard runs, if that, especially post-injury. So the Chiefs have to learn to move on from their homegrown guys. They have to learn to move on, and they have to learn to really develop rookies and really develop young guys and not rely so much in being top heavy. This past season, they were way too top heavy. You were relying too much on Patrick Mahomes, and you see what happened to his leg. You're relying too much on Chris Jones, and now you paid him too much, and he's played great for the last 5 or 6 games, but he can't give you everything he could that he was doing 3 years ago. You're relying too much on Travis Kelce, 36 years old. It's too much. You're relying on too many top tier guys, older guys to carry your team. The Chiefs need to figure out how to become more balanced with certain stars in certain positions, which I believe should be the D-line. And if you're going to have a star on offense, it's got to be a receiver. So my father-in-law says, what if they pay cut Pacheco and they decide to keep him? It's an option. It is an option if you, like I said, if he takes the veteran minimum, if he comes in and says, I want to stay a Chief for life, I want to be a Chief and I don't want to go anywhere else. Well, Pacheco, this is our price. Our price is the veteran minimum. That's all we can pay you. And if you want to be here, you'll take it. That if I was the GM, that's how I would treat the situation. Just because I don't want to pay a guy who hasn't shown any production. He had a great rookie season, and you thought there was a ton of potential. You thought, man, we found the next Kareem Hunt. Again, Kareem Hunt, his rookie year, led the league in rushing, and you thought, wow, and then his situation happens. But then we find Isaiah Pacheco, and he comes in, it's like, boom, we have Mahomes running back for the future. And then look what happens. Look what happens. He's an average to below average running back. And again, I don't mind having him as a backup running back, but he's got to come for the right price. And it's the same thing with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce has to come for the right price. Travis Kelce has done everything for this organization and deserves all the praise, all the honors, but he's got to come back for the right price if he's coming back. And if not, we'd love to, walk him out of retirement, and he's done a great career. But if he decides to run it back one more time, Travis, I need you for a vet min. I need you for the veteran minimum, because we got other places to focus our money on. We have other areas that we need to develop, that we need to watch grow, and we need to spend money in different areas, and we can't pay you. So if the Chiefs and Travis Kelce ends up coming back, you gotta expect that he understands. And if he wants to do one last ride, one last hurrah, do his farewell tour, so be it. But don't screw the Chiefs going forward because you want to do a farewell tour and you want to go around to all the stadiums and make sure everybody claps for you and all that. Don't screw the Chiefs' future because you want to be selfish and come back one more season. Now, if you come back for the right price. Don't come back for $10 million or $15 million, 1 year, $15 million. That's, again, I'm not saying he's not a great player even for that age, but it's just the Chiefs need as much salary cap and as much money as possible to spread across different positions. So you can't ask Travis Kelce to come back unless it's for a veteran minimum. And again, the Chiefs might not want him back. So what else you guys got? What else is going on? What else you guys want to talk about? We could talk about the Titans game, but to be honest, I don't really care. I mean, it's, of course I'm going to watch the game, but it's one of those situations that it's just the Titans, and it's a team of the Chiefs. And again, I want them to lose. So, but how about the situation with the Christmas Day game and Amazon? Amazon probably didn't expect Bo Nix versus Gardner Minshew on their primetime game when they were bidding for the game. So that's a very interesting and probably a horrible business decision for Jeff Bezos over there. But it just feels like the Chiefs are turning a new page when it comes to this dynasty. And who knows if the dynasty continues. It's one of those situations where you can't take for granted the last 8 years. It was a crazy last 8 years. The Chiefs had become one of the most lovable and watched teams, and then turned into the most villainized, hated teams in a span of just a few years. But it was one of the best 7-year performances you'll probably ever see from an NFL team. 7 AFC championship games. They went to 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. I mean, you're not going to find a better span of football played than what the Chiefs did for the last 7 years. And so we'll see what Mahomes does and the Chiefs do over the next 5 to 8 years. I mean, I don't know how long Mahomes is going to play. I don't expect Mahomes to play till he's 44 or whatever Tom Brady did. Mahomes' play style and just who he is, I don't think he's going to play that long. Mahomes might play, if he's 30 or however old he is, he might play till he's 37, 38. We'd be lucky to get to 40. maybe, maybe he plays till 40 and that's when the new Chiefs stadium is built or opens maybe, or maybe he plays and so he could play in the new stadium. I mean, who knows? But this next year is going to determine what happens with the Chiefs going forward, and it may determine Mahomes' future with the Chiefs. I mean, as much as, yes, he is a homegrown, drafted by the Chiefs, and you think he's going to play here forever, the guys move more than ever in this day and age, especially in the NFL. And when they're unhappy, it's he has all the power, all the control to force his way out and try to go somewhere else. So I don't think he would do that, especially with his ties here and ownership in the Royals and just what he's done with his community and how the Chiefs have basically done everything they can to win, essentially. But the truth is, if the Chiefs have another bad season, you really have to look at two things. You really have to look at, one, Andy Reid retiring or getting fired, essentially. If the Chiefs go 9-8 next year and miss the playoffs, let's say they go 9-8, miss the playoffs, is Andy Reid on the hot seat? There's a very, very strong possibility that Andy Reid's on the hot seat if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs next year. So it's one of those situations where you really have to evaluate. And then again, if the Chiefs miss the playoffs next year, is Mahomes sticking around? And especially if the Chiefs aren't making moves or being aggressive to upgrade the team, or they just haven't done a great job, the ability of being a good GM and making good decisions can flip like that. It can flip in a matter of seconds because you didn't choose the right player, you didn't sign a certain guy, the team's not having success, and before you know it, the Chiefs are back to a poverty franchise because their franchise quarterback decided to leave. So Brett Veach, I think, has the most pressure this offseason. I think you'll see Brett Veach having the most pressure because not only does he have to hit in the draft, he also has to make a splash in free agency or make a big trade and really upgrade this roster, especially if Mahomes is going to put everything on the line to be back week 1 of 2026, especially if that's the case. So Brett Veach is definitely got a tough task, and I think I'm hoping that we find Doug Peterson. I really do hope that Doug Peterson ends up being the OC. I don't hate the McDaniels thing. A lot of people are saying Mike McDaniels. I don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. We've seen the creativeness from him. We've seen, just his play calling, but that was with different personnel. That was with, you're going with Devon Achane, Jaden Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, or Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. So it's one of those situations where, do I think Mike McDaniels could come in and be creative and give a new ideas and things like that? Sure, but I don't think he's the best man for the job. Now, here's a question for you guys. Do you want Eric Bieniemy back? Would you guys want Eric Bieniemy back as offensive coordinator? And it's interesting because I think Eric Bieniemy probably, I would probably say that the relationship is tarnished between the Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy. Not exactly sure how it all went down for sure, but we know that it was hostile, and we know that it wasn't the greatest relationship. So there is a possibility that, it was one of those situations that you're not really sure if Eric Bieniemy would fit. It's been a few years, so maybe the relationship has, healed, and there is room to bring him back. But in reality, I wouldn't mind the familiar face. I wouldn't mind because we know, one, what he brings to the table, and two, how he holds people accountable. And maybe you don't bring him back as the offensive coordinator. Maybe bring him back as the running back or wide receiver coach or something, some other position. But getting him back in that locker room where he can hold guys accountable, he's the reason he ran out LaShawn McCoy. He's the reason why LaShawn McCoy didn't want to play for the Chiefs anymore, because LaShawn McCoy kept fumbling. And so he's the one that ran him out of town, but that's because he was holding him accountable. And so from the example and the data that we have from this season, this team needed to be held accountable more than ever. That's the truth, is that this team needed accountability and needed to be held accountable. So do I think Eric Bieniemy can bring that to the table? Absolutely. Absolutely. So then here's another question. So if we talked about Eric Bieniemy, what about Tyreek Hill? Do you, as the Chiefs, bring a familiar face back of Tyreek Hill? And let's say he comes back for a good deal, and assuming the leg injury that he happened to take on is recoverable. Not saying that he's peak powers Tyreek Hill, but let's say he is back to some sort of ability. Do you allow Tyreek Hill to come back? And as I mentioned, I think the Chiefs should look for a veteran presence, a man-beating wide receiver to fill in with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. I think Tyreek Hill is that perfect piece. But he's got to be healthy. And he's got a familiar chemistry with Mahomes. So I would take it, but he's also got to come for the right price. He's got to come for and most likely what would happen is I think he has one more year left on his deal with the Dolphins, but I think it's voidable, or maybe most of the money's voidable. So he'll still get paid somewhat a little bit from the Dolphins if he were to get cut, which I'm assuming it is because of the leg injury. But if the Chiefs can get him in for a steal or get him in for a good deal, I don't see why not. I don't see why it's worth a try. Now, maybe you're on a different mindset and you're like, nope, let's just turn the chapter to the Chiefs 2.0. Let's stop looking in the past. Let's stop trying to relive the good old days. I get it. I get that 100%. Totally get it. So I don't hate the idea of looking in the past, or not looking in the past and moving forward and getting fresh faces, fresh legs, and just fresh guys in the locker room. I don't hate it at all. But I think there is something to say about possibly having familiar faces come back. Eric Bieniemy and Tyreek Hill. I don't think that I don't think that there's an issue especially if Mahomes comes back and he's cleared week 1, and maybe Travis Kelce does come back for 1 year. Why not bring the boys back? Let's bring the boys back and get the band back together and see what happens. So what else we want to talk about? What else? Or if not, I think we're good, man. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see what happens going forward with the Chiefs. We'll see how the next 3 games turn out. We want them to lose, and if you want them to have a good future, you'll want them to lose. So for the first time probably ever, cheer for your team to lose. But anyway, guys, appreciate you guys for stopping in. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, SITG Show. You can find us on all social media the same way, SITG Show, Skin in the Game. Again, my name is Austin Thompson, a.k.a. OZ. Appreciate you guys for stopping in, and I'll catch you guys next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m., same time, and I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.